Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Mark back in the workshop on Mark's Aquatics. Right, we are in the bowel of the shed. This is where all the naughty things live. My big blue Cherax, Australian red-clawed crayfish down there, and one of the babies. The rest of them are hiding around in the pots down there. Okay, but this is where I bring on my brine shrimps. Now, a lot of you guys have been asking me how to bring brine shrimps. Obviously, anyone can just get them to hatching stage, but it's bringing them up to adult stage. Now, a lot of people find this difficult, okay, but it's not as difficult as people make it out to be. You've just got to follow a few little steps, and they are quite greedy little guys, and they grow very quickly. So that's what this video is going to be all about today, okay? If you're new to the channel, guys, new to my channel, and you like the videos, hit the old subscribe button and that notification bell for upcoming videos, and you're not going to miss anything that way. And if you're into your breeding fish, pop back, because I've got a whole video bank on YouTube, okay, in my playlists that you can go back to and see anything from breeding neon tetras, Congo tetras, you name it, killifish. I've done quite a lot now, so you can pop back, and it's all related with bringing on baby brine shrimps to feed the fry, okay? So that's why I try and link that two together for you, so you can pop back. If you're here for the first time, you just want to learn how to raise brine shrimps to adult size, we're going to get into it right now. Now, all I use is 2-litre fizzy drink bottles, okay, upside down. I've got them on hooks underneath, just cut a little hole in them, hang them up, pierce a small hole in the lid of each one, okay. Cut this very soft silicone pipe. That's quite important to get the soft silicone pipe for this, okay. Cut it at an angle across, so you end up with a point, poke it through the hole, grab it with some pliers the other side, and then really give it a yank through the hole, and it will seal itself like you can see there, so it's not going to leak all over your floor or where you need it. Now, you need a light source as well, okay. My workshop in here is quite warm now, but you're going to need it at about 20 to 25 degrees, okay, in between that sort of range, with light. I don't bother with 24-hour light. I just keep it on the normal photo period that I'm running in the workshop here. And basically what you do is you'll fill those with 1 litre of water, okay. Wait until that has settled down, and then you can add your salt to it. Now, what I use is 1 tablespoon per litre, okay, but don't use table salt. Some of these cheap table salts that you can buy are absolutely rubbish. They've got added iodine and iodine, sorry, in them, and you're just not going to get a hatch rate at all. So make sure you're using like rock salt, sea salt, Himalayan salt, stuff like that, something which is natural, no added anything into it, okay, and you're going to have a lot better success bringing on your brine shrimps with that, okay. You're going to need the water. It's got to be the salinity, which is the saltiness of the water, has got to be from 30 to about 35 parts per trillion, ppt, okay. If you're going to mix it up with a hydrometer, or one of the little flipper ones that you can use in the marine world, you guys know what I'm talking about, the little window hydrometers for checking your salt content. And they're going to need to stay on there for about, I would say, well, they're going to hatch in about 15 to 20 hours or so. With that temperature, okay, they're going to hatch in there. Just keep it a light sort of rolling. That was a little bit too aggressive. That one's about right, just a bubble, because you just want them spiraling around in the water column like that, okay. Now you can see that one there is gone orange because they've hatched. This one I've just set up, and you can see how many of those little cysts, the little eggs, are tumbling around in there. And I normally put in per litre, I'll put in maybe a level teaspoon into there and bring them on, and that's going to be millions of the things, okay, they're going to hatch out. So you don't need to mix up as many as you think. What happens when you stop it, wait for about, I would say, 10 minutes, okay, and what happens is, as soon as those egg cases, they separate from the egg cases will float, and then they will go down to the bottom, okay. Now, I tend to harvest at night, because when it's dark in here, all I do is I'll get my torch, like that, and I'll stand it against the side like that, okay? And what it does is it draws, they're phototactic, which means baby brine shrimps, from when they're first born or to when they're fully grown, they're attracted to light, okay? And I'll demonstrate that in a bit. But when the light's on, they will all get drawn to that. In effect, we'll have a go and we'll do that now, okay? Right, okay guys, what I've done is I have now turned off the air supply, so now it's still. I'll just turn off the main tank light as well. There you go. Now you can see that water is basically an orangey colour, and if I go right close, you'll see that there is absolutely millions of them hopping around in there, down at the neck, and they are drawn to the torchlight. So you can still, the water's still settling, you can see the egg cases rising to the top, and then when you get to the top you're going to get a very thick crust of eggs. Now wait about 10 minutes, okay guys, because you don't want the egg cases in there, because that's no good for your fish, and they're not going to eat them, and they just look unsightly flying around in your tank and all over your substrate, especially if you've got a darker substrate. They show up everywhere and they last for ages before they biodegrade away. But you can see those slowly going up there, and it'll get oranger and oranger as we wait. You can see them in there, and they're thousands and thousands. So that's what I've done there. Now what I've done is I've just emptied this once, okay, so I can put some up the top for you so I can show you those, and then we can get into raising these guys then to an adult size, okay? Oh, before I say that though, what I should have said is, once everything is gone down to the bottom and into your pipe, then obviously lower your pipe, take it off your little air pump, put it down lower so it self-siphons out, and then you can siphon out all this brine solution where all the eggs are floated to the surface, so you end up with a nice clean brine solution with all your freshly hatched Artemia in, okay, in a little pot. And now we'll go upstairs and I'll show you what they look like. Right, we're up the top of the tank now. We're on top of that little baby Corydorus tank, which we've got all the babies in. I'll show you them in a while. They're all coming on in leaps and bounds and feeding on these newly hatched brine shrimp. Now you can see how many there is in there. It's absolutely thick with them, and the reason why they've settled down the bottom and it looks more orange is because there's no oxygen in there, there's no air bubbles in there to move that water around. That will disperse them then around the tank, okay? Now when you're trying to bring these guys, normally now you guys will be feeding these straight away to your fish, and but if you want to bring them on and get them to come on a little bit further, what you need to do is set up another little tank, and you can use a little 2.5 gallon tank like I use, a little Pets at Home tank, something like that, nice little cheap one, or even some a big Tupperware dish, or one of those square boxes, plastic boxes that you can put some water in. Mix up the same water, 30 to 35 parts per trillion, okay, in there, or 1 tablespoon of salt per litre of water until you get it to the level that you want. You can have about 4 inches, 5 inches, whatever you like in there. Now you can, and I've had my best results, is when I've added a sponge filter to the tank. And what that basically does, obviously, is keep everything nice and fresh in there. And what you're going to need then is a heat source, okay? Now you can put a heater in there, get that set for around 22 degrees. That's what I normally aim for, 22 to 23 degrees Celsius. Let that water get up to temperature first, okay? Now this is the part where you've got to be careful. Get your breeding tank ready first, with a heater in and with your sponge filter in, okay? I'll show you one of those now. Right, here's the little tank that I use, guys. Just a little 2.5 gallon tank on the floor. Got a little light above it just to give it some light throughout the day. Little heater in there set to 23 degrees. I just took the sponge filter out a minute because I've just given it a clean before, and I've removed most of the adult shrimps in there because I've got them in the workshop to show you, okay, in a minute. So that's the sort of tank that I put them in. Half fill it with water, get that salinity right like I said, and you're away. Right, let's go and check the other guys out. So there you go. So make sure you've got those set up first, okay? This is only if you want to bring them on to the adult stage, okay? And I always find you can bring them on without a filter, but I find it's a lot better and your water stays better because of the foods that we're going to be adding, and I'll tell you about in a minute, okay? But so that you can see there now, you've got the newly hatched, which are the best, one of the best foods you're going to get, okay, to feed to your baby fish. I've got the little baby corries down below there. I'll just show you those guys. Now if you look down there, you can see all those little tiny orange bellies, and they are all full of freshly hatched brine shrimp. They're all over the place. We look through that flipper magnifier there. That's some bit of kit. You want to pick yourself up one of those if you can. But there's loads of them, and there's no end of them behind there, and they're all nice and full up. Anyway, from there, okay, I'll move you over now to the other side. Now these are a few more days old, okay, so they've been put into another little pot of mine, and now you can see there they're starting to grow. They're starting to get a little bit more of that shape that we're familiar with. And it won't be long before they're to the adult size, okay? Now, I've been bringing them on. Now, what I feed them, and this is important, okay, when you're bringing these guys on. When you've got them now, you imagine now this is my tank in my workshop. And what I feed them is spirulina powder, okay, which is, I use that one from Functional Foods, very, very finely ground, very high in protein. And what I do is I get these little pots, these little samples, I think they're urine samples, I think, and I just put a very, very small pinch in a bit of salted water, and I just shake it up like that, okay? And then what I do is I pour a little tiny bit in there. Now I just cloud that water in the main tank until it goes a little bit cloudy. There's still some in there, you can see. You see the way they're being attracted to the light. And now they are going to feed quite happily on that. Now another thing that's important as well is you need the food, okay, to be kept in suspension. And that means it needs to be getting blown around and make sure it's moving and it's coming off. And that is why these little round jars are absolutely fantastic. Because if you've got an air bubble or your filter coming up the side here, it rolls. You can use an airline, just an airline, and keep it moving if you want to do it on a smaller scale. This is really, the bigger tank is for if you want to be bringing them on regularly to feed better and other fish as well, okay? So you get these little jars, these little tiny jars, anything like that. You can pick them up very cheap. They use them at weddings and things to put flowers in on tables, and they're only a couple of quid. But they make great little reactors for bringing them up, because they will actually put your airline in one side and it will just keep everything slowly, just literally a bubble a second. Like that, we'll keep that moving lovely. Now you can see the adults there, okay, they're the ones I've been bringing on, and that is, you can see some babies in amongst them as well. They all came out the tank, and believe it or not, they've let off some of the babies as well. And you can probably see some baby ones skipping around in there which they've actually laid. But I'll get into that section in a minute. But first of all, I want to get on about, we'll stick to the food side of things first, okay? Right, okay guys, spirulina powder is fantastic, okay, for bringing these guys on. But don't put too much in, okay? Keep it little small amounts. I mean literally a tiny little sprinkle in, because that will disperse through the water and they'll find it and they'll take it. They're not fussy eaters, brine shrimps, okay? They're quite voracious little eaters. That's why they grow so fast. Egg yolk's another good one, okay? Now if you boil an egg, take a little bit of the yolk, I mean a little bit, and then get some salty water and literally just break up a tiny little piece, rub it between your fingers in the water, and that'll break that up into tiny little particles, okay? And then you can add that to the water as well with a turkey baster, or just pour it in and they'll greedily accept that, okay? Wheat flour, soybean flour they'll eat, and yeast as well, baker's yeast. You can put some baker's yeast in there, put it in, you know, the little grains, and they will break down in the water, and that airline then going around will circulate that, and they'll find it in the water column and they'll eat it. And within 2 weeks, guys, you'll be able to, they'll be big enough for you to net out with a fine mesh net and feed to your fish, okay? But another little secret is, which I found over the years, is when you get them not that size, But when they're still freshly hatched like that, now there is absolutely tens of thousands in there, okay? Don't try and put too many into that next stage up. Feed the majority or just hatch smaller amounts. When you put them in your tank, if you're going to be regularly bringing them on, I would use a turkey baster like that. I would probably suck up maybe that many from that pot there, okay, and add them to my tank that I showed you, 2.5 gallons, because there is probably hundreds and hundreds of them just in that little section there, okay. What'll happen is if you put too many in there, they won't have enough swimming room, and you'll just have a crash and you'll lose them every single time. So make sure you use small amounts. You see there's not that many in there, but they've all got room to move and they're all happy little zipping around, okay. That's one of the secrets I will tell you. Don't put too many in the pot at any one time, because when you look at it, when they're this size, okay, they're all gone for that light bulb now for my torch. When they get to that size, if you had 200 in there, say, that's going to be a lot. You're only probably looking at 40, maybe 50 in there, and that looks quite a few swimming around. So that'll give you an idea from, and you can see the baby ones in there as well, which are growing up. Now, I haven't added those ones in there. Those are the ones that they've had in there. Now, if you look, maybe lucky, one will swim past, and you'll see right down the bottom by their tail, they'll be carrying two little tiny sacks of eggs. There goes one there. My big finger in the way. Pardon me. But if you keep looking, you might see a couple there with eggs. And what they'll do is, brine shrimps can release them into the water to hatch, okay? Or they can hold on to them as well, and they will actually hatch them like our shrimps do, okay? They'll hold them until they hatch, and they'll release them into the water, which is what you can see there, okay? And then obviously you're adding your spirulina powder, your egg yolk, your soybean, your flour, wheat flour in small amounts, and your filter's looking after it, and they're going to keep growing for you, okay? So there's your 3 sort of stages there, okay? Obviously there's stages in between of them just getting bigger and bigger and bigger until they get to there, but these are the ones that I've been bringing on. Those are the ones that were literally all in the tank, because I sieved those guys out and put them in there, and all those guys that are in there are basically the babies from the ones that were in there, okay? They've grown up. As soon as they grow up from that size, then they repopulate. In the summertime, you can put them outside in the sun. They love it out there in the sun, spirulina powder, but obviously cover it over, because you don't want rainwater getting in there and diluting that salinity, okay? That's salty in the water. And that obviously goes for in your house as well, okay? Cover it over the top, leave a small hole, and that'll keep that evaporation away, because obviously as water evaporates, don't forget guys, it leaves the salt behind, and what happens then is that water then gets too salty for them and it'll kill them. A lot of people fail that way as well. They'll have these big open buckets, not realizing, and they just keep adding, and it's evaporating, and before you know it, you've got a crash, and you think, oh no, why are all my shrimps gone? Where are they gone? They're all dead. They're all dead on the bottom in the bucket or in the tank. And it's when you check the salinity of your water, the saltiness of your water, you'll find that it's crept right up, and that's what's killed them, okay? So you've got to keep it stable. Stable is important. Now there's one with eggs right up there, you see, and she'll hold on to them and release them into the water, and then there'll be tiny little guys like you see hopping around there, you see. So that's the way you bring them up if you're going to feed them to your fish. Some people just like bringing them up with their kids. They're fantastic to bring up with kids. They fascinated me as a kid watching them growing up in little tanks. They call them sea monkeys, they can call them all sorts. So now you get triops as well, which are a little bit different, but they're also good fun as well to bring up with your kids, and it'll give them a little learning curve on making up the salt solutions and different things and feeding them. Anyway, I hope you liked a little video on how to bring, going back now down through the stages from those to those. All the way down to those, and I can see them baby corries looking at me now. and my sepia tetras and the diamond tetras as well, looking at me for some of these to eat. Anyway guys, I hope you liked that little video. Try it yourself, it's not as difficult as it seems. It may take you a couple of goes. Any trouble, give me a shout and I'll help you out the best I can, okay? As always, all stars, love you loads, take care, and I'll see you for another edition of Mark's Aquatics very shortly. Bye for now.
Just me and my guitar.